Live from the heartland and the crossroads of America, it's Tony Katz Today.
For the sake of clarity, I don't know what path Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley think they have. I don't know how it's possible that they think they have a path. I mean, I know DeSantis, he'll tell you all sorts of things right now. He will tell you that they've thrown everything at this race. They've thrown the kitchen sink at this race. Where's the money? That's the question. Where in the world is the money?
Where's the money, Lebowski? You want that money, Lebowski? Bunny says you're good for it.
What are you without the money? How in the world do you expect this to work if you don't have the money to run the race? This is madness, I tell you. Complete and total madness. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. How does he continue? Again, he can talk big, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything if you don't have the money to get you to the next place. And he doesn't. He flat out does not. This is an issue. Nikki Haley's convinced that she can stay. How? How in the world does Nikki Haley think that she can stay in this race? She's going to tell you that she has punched her ticket? No, wait, that was Ron DeSantis who told you that he had punched his ticket. Now I have Nikki Haley saying that, my gosh, as a matter of fact, I'm so popular in this two-person race that if Donald Trump isn't going to debate me, well, then there's no debate.
You said this morning there have been 5 debates in the Republican primary so far, and the next one you do will either be against Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Just to put a finer point on it, you're not going to do a debate here in New Hampshire unless Donald Trump is on the stage.
I mean, that's who I'm running against. That's who I want. That's, at the end of the day, he's the front runner. He's the one that I'm 7 points away from. He's the one that we're fighting for. There is nobody else I need to debate. I have had 5 strong debates and have done plenty of them. He can't hide forever. At some point, he's got to get on a debate.
Have you told ABC put out a statement saying that they want you to tell them officially by 5 o'clock today? Have you already done that?
They are very aware that I've said, is Donald Trump going to be on that stage? They don't need to be asking me. They need to be asking him. Mm-hmm. If he's on that stage, I'm there.
Yeah, he's not there. I forgot if I said hello. Tony Katz, good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Is there a Hail Mary play, though? I know people have been writing about it, people have been talking about it, and I don't mind that they do. And while some people are convinced that the argument is Ron DeSantis has to get out of this race, and that way he can save himself for the future, I don't think that's it. I actually think that they don't lose anything by sticking around for as long as they can. But what do they expect to happen by their sticking around for as long as they can? You have to hope beyond hope, beyond hope, beyond all measure of reasonableness and rationality that Donald Trump quite literally craps the bed, literally pulls a Gerald Nadler at a press conference. You have to hope that Donald Trump pulls a Dick Morris and some guy in his underwear comes walking through the shot. That happened on Newsmax, and I'm sorry, it's still it's still unbelievable to me. It happened. It happened. We must have the video up at TonyKatz.com. I'll double check. Sarah, put the video up at TonyKatz.com of Dick Morris. It's the weirdest thing in the world. I have in my home where I have the studio, I have the red light. Like literally lights up upstairs so the family knows I'm on the air. He doesn't lock a door. Anyway. The things that have to work out for Haley or DeSantis are massive. They're massive. But I don't actually believe that getting out of the race is necessarily the thing they have to do. One of the arguments that they're making, Ron DeSantis trying to make this argument in a town hall on CNN, is that half the GOP made a different decision.
Well, look, I think that he was the former president of the United States. He's one of the most famous people that's ever been involved in American politics. And there's obviously a lot of Republicans that appreciated his policies, but you still had roughly half of the Iowa caucus goers that made another choice. And so that tells me that there is an appetite for a different leader. And I think what I represent is somebody that has delivered on those key conservative policies that we've all been wanting to see in Washington, D.C. In Florida, think about what we've done with our...
With all due respect, I like the Florida resume, and I've been clear. I'm a DeSantis guy. I would rather have DeSantis. I think I get what I want and less baggage. It's easier to get over the hump in November. But that's not the way you sell it, sir. That's not the way you sell it. That's not the way you sell it. You sold it as if you were some engaged college professor giving a thesis about how someone, what it is that the Iowa caucus meant to you. No. It's not well, it's not maybe, and I think no. You have to now engage a level of authority. You are in the great game now. This is Game of Thrones. Are you coming with dragons, or are you going to end up a White Walker? And let's assume that Arya didn't have that little hand skill thing. You don't engage in any level of uncertainty. You start with what we learned from Iowa is that half the Republican Party isn't interested in Donald Trump. And we have to make sure that they know they have an alternative that will get them what they want. Policy prescriptions that make their lives better. And America, that remains fantastic and stays away from this progressive nonsense. I am that guy clearly. That's the delivery that he should have given. And it kills me that he missed it, because he should not have missed it by any stretch. When Haley said that she's, there are two people in this race, of course she has the argument because she polls very well in New Hampshire and South Carolina is her state. She does not have to get out till Super Tuesday. As a matter of fact, she has got a ramp that gets her to Super Tuesday. Ron DeSantis does not have that. Ron DeSantis has to play second in New Hampshire when he has been he was behind Ramaswamy, he was behind Chris Christie. I think he may have been behind Asa Hutchinson. I don't know if they're still voting for Bob Dole there. He was super behind on every level. Where in the world does he think that this is going to come from? Meanwhile, Trump is picking up the endorsements left and right. Members of Congress, senators, you've got governors doing it, and then Vivek Ramaswamy heads out to New Hampshire to show the love.
You know this man. You know why we're here. Patriots across the state. We are in the middle of a war in this country. That's what this is. It's not a war between black and white. It's not between Democrat and Republican, even in a deeper sense. It's between the permanent state and the everyday citizen. Between those of us who love the United States of America and a fringe minority who hates this country and what we stand for. And right now we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. That's what we need in this country. You got to know you're in a war to win one. You can't win one if you're asleep at the switch, have your head stuck in the sand like most Republicans. And I think that's going to require somebody who isn't bought and paid for, a businessman, not a politician. Anybody heard of that? And that's why I was in this race, but I'll tell you, the people of Iowa spoke loud and clear last night, and I'm a big believer that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That we, the people, choose who leads this country. And so we heard we, the people, last night, and that is why last evening I met my friend here. We met in person, and I told him that I would endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States and do everything in my power to lead us to victory in this war. It is a 1776 moment right now.
You got to admit, man, he's good at it. He is. Vivek is good at it. And he's going to be very, very good on the trail. And he's going to enjoy beating the living snot out of Nikki Haley. The people who think that Haley and DeSantis should remain, they're not crazy. What they are is outrageously hopeful. Delusionally hopeful. I could, at this moment, break down some specific paths, some ideas that could show that, yes, there's an opportunity here and an opportunity there. There are very few opportunities. Everything would have to go right for a Haley or a DeSantis, and everything would have to go wrong for a President Trump. But let's say they're not thinking of, hey, we're gonna have this done before Super Tuesday. It's just going to be a war of attrition, and people will realize that they have options. Let's say that either one of them believes that if we just stay in this till the convention and the indictments start turning into convictions, then, we're going to get them at the convention, and that'll be the ball game. To the extent that there are crazier ideas, there are crazier ideas. That concept is actually the most not mind-numbing, not insane. You could see that there is a, if I stick around, and if I stick around, and if I stick around, maybe I can win some level of attrition game with that near 50% that didn't want him in Iowa, which doesn't necessarily mean it's representative of where the full party is. Because if you take that 49%, it's not all I'm not voting for Trump. Some are not voting for Trump. The others are going to be like, okay, Trump's going to be the nominee. And they're going to check it off. They're going to vote for Trump, and that's it. So that for that 51% that he got becomes a 72%. No one is taking that into account. But let's say that this is the philosophy. We're not debating whether or not it's crazed. This is the philosophy. It's the least crazy of the philosophies. How are you going to afford it? How are you going to afford this? What's your plan to maintain this? You mean you're just going to stay on the ballot and you're not going to campaign? You're not going to travel to these states? You're not going to have advance? You're not going to have a town hall? You're not going to feed people some donuts and tell them why over breakfast you're the guy? That's not going to happen? How are you going to pay for your staff? How does this work? Give me the plan for the staying power. I'll say it again. I would rather DeSantis over Trump. I think he's easier. It's easier for us to win a general election with him. Tell me how it works. Show me the methodology, for the love of the Lord. Show me the methodology. It's not there. There's no money that shows that it gets there. Find me the person. Find me the donor who's like, what? Blow $50 million? Hell yeah! Where's my checkbook? Well, I got a pen right here. I don't know where that is. So yes. They're staying in, are DeSantis and Haley. And maybe through South Carolina, all right, I can somewhat see it. It's too early to get out now. But do they think they're sticking around for the long run? Because that's just crazy town. Crazy town. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. You know that meme that exists, you know, how it started, how it's going? So it started with Joe Biden saying that the Houthi rebels should not be on any level of list of terrorists or on a list of terrorist organizations. And it ends with Joe Biden putting the Houthi rebels back on a list of terrorist organizations. Joe Biden is always wrong. Always, always, always. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. If you're listening on radio, 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. If you're watching the live stream, my gosh, leave your comments. I'm happy to get to it. The placement as a specially designated global terrorist group, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, reverses a decision that Biden made to remove the Houthis over concerns that hurt prospects for peace talks and further crippled the economy of an impoverished nation. Yemen, of course, is just torn asunder. Yemen is torn asunder because of a proxy war that's happening. There, a civil war, if you will, a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This has been going on for a while. But that's not the story. The story is this push continual from the Biden administration to say we're going to achieve peace. The Houthi rebels are backed by Iran. So once again, it is an appeasement of Iran by the Obama administration. I'm sorry, I mean the Biden administration. No, wait, I got it right the first time. The same people, the same failed pseudo-academics, the very same Iran Ayatollah lovers are right there trying to make the same deals that not only didn't work the first time around, but allowed Iran to get closer and closer to a nuclear weapon. The Iran nuclear deal never, ever, ever stopped nor slowed Iran. These are the facts. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they manipulate. Of course they were working to enrich uranium outside of the confines of this deal called the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Of course they were. And if it wasn't for Israel bombing some sites every now and again and sending a little Stuxnet virus out there, who knows where the Iranians would be at this moment. The Biden administration was as wrong can be. Why were they looking to have peace talks? What is it about this administration and the belief that they can bring about peace? This is not a question of whether or not we want peace. I'm going to answer the question for all of us. The answer is yes. The vast majority of us are not warmongers by any stretch of the imagination. You know what we want to do? We want to have a steak. We want to sip some bourbon. We want to smoke a cigar. We want to get a little sex, and then we want to nap. This is what we want. And sometimes, not even in that order. I am not here to judge it by any stretch of the imagination. In the main, what we want is to be able to live our lives the way we see fit. This is what we want. This is what we desire. This is what we're looking for. We're not looking to try and get other people to live our lives, live their lives the way we see fit for them. That's very much a progressive thing. You want to talk about being an authoritarian. Can I just go a quick side thing? This was Rachel Maddow on the night of the Iowa caucus talking about the authoritarian Republicans.
Sure, takeaway from that, and I don't mean to be, again, too dark, as you said, on this, but it is not. If we are worried about the rise of authoritarianism in this country, we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. If we're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government, the leader who is trying to do that is part of that equation. but people wanting that
Correct.
is a much bigger part of that equation. Right. And the American electorate is made up of two major parties. One of those parties has been flirting with extremism on the ultra-right for a very long time. They've brought them in a way that they haven't been central to Republican electoral politics ever before, and I know because I've been studying this. But once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader's interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme because
you're the people who told us you can't have gas stoves. Then you can't have gas furnaces. You're the people who told us we have to have electric cars. And the state of California said you can't sell any new car except electric cars by, 2035? You're the people who told us that we had to wear a mask. And if we don't wear a mask, well, then we're killing grandma. And if we question the science of wearing masks, then we are destroying democracy. And you dare claim that it's the Republicans who are pushing an authoritarian streak? Do you ever hear yourself? And the answer is yes, of course they hear themselves. But so much of what happens is this is what we believe, but we can't show people we believe, so we'll push it on the other person. That projection that takes place. The idea that it is Republicans pushing the idea of authoritarianism is nonsense. The vast majority of conservatives I know, yes, Tony, you're talking anecdotally, I agree. They want to be left alone. They want the cigar, the steak, the bourbon, and the sex. That's what they want. They want to be left alone. They want to be left to their own devices. They don't think about you at all, Rachel Maddow. They don't think about your bigot racist friend Joy Reid either. The vast majority of Americans don't give two craps. But it certainly doesn't help when you push an idea constantly, continually, without any data, without any facts, that look at these authoritarians when clearly one can see if it's not enough to be okay with a same-sex marriage, you have to celebrate it. Well, I don't want to celebrate it. Well, then you have to be thrown in jail. Remember, you have to decorate the cake. I don't want to decorate the cake, but I'll sell you the cake. If you don't decorate the cake, you go to jail. There was a story out the other day. The owners of a venue were approached by a same-sex couple, two women, to have, I think it was their wedding there. That's what they called it, having the wedding there. And they wrote them a letter. The owners wrote a letter, said, look, we're open to everyone. We'll gladly do it. But just so you know, we won't be celebrating with you. This is not what we believe in. We want you to know that about the place we are. We are open to you. We will take care of you. We're just not celebrating this. And the couple went crazy. How dare they ruin our perfect event? The owners of the establishment were honest, upfront, and clear with you and still opened their place to you and said, go ahead. It wasn't enough. Now you have to celebrate with us and you have to be the biggest cheerleader. Who's the authoritarian here? You have to design the cake or decorate the cake, or else you have to design the website, or else you have to let a boy claim they're a girl and use the bathroom, or else. Who's the authoritarian here? I often quote Evan Sayet in this moment when talking about the political left and how they are 180 degrees diametrically opposed to the truth. They are not just wrong, as Evan Sayet explains. They are as wrong can be. That is absolutely true. Joe Biden was as wrong can be when it comes to the Houthi rebels. As wrong can be. The deal, right, and there's a lot going on. This decision, this reversal, should be a great warning sign to all of us at how bad Joe Biden's instincts really are. You know, the line that Joe Biden has never gotten has gotten every foreign policy decision wrong in the last 30 years. Every single one. But this is clearly a page out of Barack Obama's playbook, and this desire to somehow think you can bring Iran in. It is to this that I think that whoever the nominee is, whether it be Donald Trump or somehow one of the others, I think I said it clearly right there. This is a really important thing to note. The hubris of the political left that they believe that somehow through some magical, mystical kindness, they can get everybody to come to heel. Do you actually believe that you could create a peace with Hamas? To believe that, you would have to, at first, do a tremendous amount of drugs. But we'll talk about Hunter Biden later. Then you would have to suspend all reality and all belief. You would have to live in a fantasy where somehow your hashtag and your deep feelings create results. We live in reality, and in reality, Hamas wants every Jew dead and every American dead. And in reality, the Houthi rebels want the same things. You can't achieve peace with them. It's not that I don't want to, because if I do, I'm not bothered, and I can get back to the steak and the bourbon and the cigar and the sex and the nap. And not necessarily in that order. Warmongering is not on my list. And I would argue for the vast majority of Americans who are rational folk, it's not on their list. There are more people who have things on the list I just mentioned than have warmongering on a list. But the rational people understand that sometimes to get to your list, you got to take care of the work. And the work involves absolutely destroying the Houthis and absolutely destroying Hamas. And ignoring the Houthi rebels and thinking that you could deal with them, reason with them, was an irrational position from the start. Anybody with a mind would have told you this. Anybody within a military complex with a mind would have told you this. The Biden people didn't know. How many more times can Joe Biden be wrong and it won't cost us? We know he's wrong on the southern border. Don't forget that when they did they called it entrance polling for the caucuses. When they did the entrance polling, it wasn't the economy that was the top subject for the Iowa caucuses. That was the second one at 35%. 40% of people, their top subject, immigration. Now, the left will go for the spin of, you see, they have a problem with brown people. The left is dopey. We have a problem with lawlessness. And you know who else has a problem with lawlessness? Brown people and black people. Because they all don't think alike. But according to Joy Reid, the bigot of MSNBC, never mind the whole cast over there and at CNN, they are so despicable and think so low of people who are black or brown or Asian or Hispanic, they think they do all think in a monolithic block. All these people are Pauline Kael. They think everybody around them is the totality of people. If you don't know the Pauline Kael story, and there's a lot of evidence these days that maybe it didn't happen this way, but the story is there, so I keep it. A socialite in New York in the 70s, and she, when Richard Nixon was reelected, she said, Nixon? How in the world did Richard Nixon win? I don't know anybody who voted for Nixon. You think Manhattan and people who fancied themselves those who would attend the Algonquin Round Table were the kind of people voting for Nixon? It's this belief that their little world is somehow the world. I believe the world is here, and they own a very small part of it. Very tiny little part. Joe Biden is always wrong, and when Joe Biden is wrong, you have the chance to get hurt. The Houthi rebels are now hitting at Greek ships. They will hit everywhere. The shipping lanes have changed. They start costing more. A container that usually costs $2,400 now costs $10,000 to rent. You will pay more at your local store. Never mind the people who will be kidnapped. Never mind the people who will be killed. Never mind how these groups like Hamas have already been working to get people across the southern border of the United States. How wrong can Joe Biden be on that policy? And we're the ones who are going to get hurt. And in the list of things we want to do, getting hurt isn't one of those things. Although I don't necessarily know how you have sex, but I'm not here to judge. My safe word is avocado. Joe Biden is always, always wrong. And we got to make sure that we're right in November. I'm Tony Katz. So you have the new president of Argentina speaking at the World Economic Forum, and this is through the translator, and he's pretty clear. You commies stink.
Do not surrender to the advance of the state.
Oh, I played it from the wrong spot. I'm sorry. For a second there, maybe you couldn't hear it. Here it is.
Do not surrender to the advance of the state. The state is not the solution. The state is the problem itself. You are the true protagonists of this story. And rest assured that as from today, Argentina is your staunch, unconditional ally. Thank you very much, and long live freedom. Damn it.
Okay. Long live freedom, damn it. People were upset when he won, and he's the Trump of Argentina, and he's going to ruin everything. Too much government is a bad thing. And the last thing the World Economic Forum folk want to hear is that they're the problem. Because they are, of course, believers that they can engineer our better tomorrow. To that end, there is this woman from India speaking at the World Economic Forum, hospital group vice chair. And I clipped just some of it. I wanted you to hear her take on lockdowns. Listen, we're talking about COVID lockdowns, of course.
But more than anything else, I am a very proud Indian. And I think that the leadership, the quick decisions and the incisive decisions to do what we have to do at the right time, sometimes they're hard decisions, you've faced that. But I think to take the right decision, the hard decision, but to take a decision has been very important. And I think a population of 1.3 billion people, if we have been able to come out of this relatively, better than which could have been anticipated, and the fact that there was early intervention of vaccination, there was a lockdown. It was hard, but it was a decision making which I think helped us. So I think that's important going forward.
So is this a health official making the claim that lockdowns were good for us? Lockdowns were beneficial. Yeah, it was hard, but we needed to have that happen. You needed that. You're welcome. Understand that our issue, the issue for the freedom folk, the free and thinking people, the free folk, as they would say on the Game of Thrones, is that these other people are really convinced they know how we should live. Again, we go back to the radicalness of Rachel Maddow's authoritarian commentary, which you realize is just a whole big bunch of projection. Who's the authoritarian? The people cheering lockdowns or the people opposed to lockdowns? Who actually is the one here that wants to control your life? The people who believe that all cars should be electric? or the people who believe that you should be allowed mobility as you see fit? Who is the authoritarian? The people who believe in a centralized digital currency controlled by governments? Or the people who believe in Bitcoin, a completely decentralized type of currency? It is remarkable to witness. So this talk from Milei, President Milei of Argentina. There's going to be a lot of pushback to that. Tremendous amount of pushback to that. Oh, he's so silly. Oh, he's so dangerous. That'll ramp up. I don't know. I don't know what's so dangerous about, being opposed to the march of the growing state. Was it dangerous when Dwight Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address about the military-industrial complex? I thought it was probably a good warning. Something he saw as an issue. Because it was an issue. Meanwhile, there is some scotch for sale. And let's discuss this Democratic switch thing. And did it actually help Nikki Haley place third? Find everything at TonyKatz.com. This is Tony Katz Today. The Supreme Court decides not to hear a case about bathrooms, transgender students, and the state of Indiana. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. What's going down, everybody? Find everything at TonyKatz.com, TonyKatz, TonyKatz.com. That's where you do it. So this was just yesterday. You have in Indiana, in Martinsville, the Metropolitan School District of Martinsville. They had an issue, and it's based on transgender boys' access to the boys' bathroom. So I assume that means girls who claim to be boys. I sometimes still have trouble following it. And what the Seventh Circuit said was that, yes, that's allowed. And so this got its way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided not to hear the case. Now, people, this bothers people constantly. Why is it that the Supreme Court will sometimes decide not to hear a case? And the answer is the case itself might not actually solve the question. It might bring them more cases, as opposed to a case where the presentation they could provide, the explanation they could provide, the ruling would satisfy a whole series of cases and engage a proper level of precedent. They did this a tremendous number of times regarding the Second Amendment, and Second Amendment activists would be infuriated. Why is the Supreme Court not ruling? Why are they not protecting gun rights? What are they doing? In many ways, in many respects, they were waiting for the right case. Waiting for the right case to take place so they could engage a proper ruling. A ruling that would have the most amount of effect and answer the most amount of questions. That is very, very true of the court. The school district in Martinsville wanted SCOTUS to conclude that it is not required to allow transgender students to use the bathrooms of their choosing. And I am a believer, of course, that if you are a boy and you claim to be a girl, you can make that claim, except it's not true, and you don't get to use a girl's bathroom or locker room. And your feelings, and I, for the record, I would say this to students. You give me a 14-year-old, I will honestly address the situation with them. Your feelings can be very real. That doesn't require an action upon my part. And if we are now going to be honest, not only with the 14-year-olds, but with the 14-year-olds' parents and with society writ large, we have to stop indulging mental illness. You're a boy who says you're a girl, you can say that, but it doesn't require anything from me. My life does not have to change one iota. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't. And certainly I will not play along with the, okay, I'll use these pronouns. I will not lie to you because I will not lie to myself. There is no power on God's green earth that can make me lie to myself. I simply will not do it. You can bring all the Mao struggle sessions you want, and dear Lord, it's very hard to survive a Mao struggle session. I will not do it. I will not be a part of it. I will not have it. To ask someone to lie to themselves and to lie to others is a sin. It is a total lack of decency. You'll note that in my argument, I did not say that you cannot live your life the way you see fit, and certainly this is true of adults. But I will not indulge the mental illness that it is a part of. Gender dysphoria is a diagnosis. It is a diagnosis, and we should treat it as such. And in children, it is not our job to indulge a mental illness. It is our job to say that is an issue. Let's get this child the help they deserve. Let's love the kid enough to care about the kid, which includes sometimes saying no. So no, you don't get to use the bathroom of your choosing. You use this bathroom, or you can use that one over there. That one's single stall, which totally fine by me. Just don't think you have to be rude about it. I don't think you have to be mean about it, but you have to be clear about it. The problem is the people who push this are the ones that are rude and mean, like, for example, the ACLU. The ACLU of Indiana filed an opposition brief in this case. What is your argument? What is your argument? That children have these rights and the other children have no rights? I can think of nothing more hateful than that. The idea that the child who makes the claim has rights and the child who doesn't make the claim doesn't have rights. That is a barbaric thought. And I will state as clear as day, the idea that the American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana is actually focused on civil liberties in Indiana is laughable. Not from what I've seen, from how they have acted. As a matter of fact, I am amazed anybody writes them a check at all. I am stunned, shocked by it, floored by it, that anybody that is a supporter at this stage of the game. Supporting what? Telling young girls to lay back and take it? My words. That's what they're doing. Good Lord. So the Supreme Court says now we're not going to hear the case. Okay. It will come back because there are other cases, there are other situations, and this will get addressed. And I don't understand on what planet it won't be said that a child who makes a decision doesn't have the right to impact other children. But if so, if that's how they rule, if you think people have been pulling their kids out of school now, you ain't seen nothing yet. And to that end, I'm fine with people pulling their kids out of school. We have to break the teachers' unions and break education as we know it. I don't know if it can be reformed, but I know nothing can happen until it is broken. And people have to start seeing how breaking the system can work for them and how they can make these changes and better their kids' education and create a safer education. We'll start talking about that more and more. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Being a mayor ain't easy, and that's, well, important because local government is not easy. And so much of the time, we don't pay attention to local government enough. We've certainly seen this in the world of news, right? Local newspapers not having the people, not having the ability to do the coverage. So what do they sacrifice on? The covering of local government, mayor's races, city council activities, town council activities. And it is when there is no sunlight, well, that's when things can manifest and get really ugly. In Indiana, more than any place I've ever lived, there is a celebration of mayors and this, I don't call it a belief, call it a philosophy, call it whatever you will, that we expect not only a competence out of them, but we want a growth from them. Tony Katz today. It's good to be with you. One of the things I'm curious about, and I'm going to spend part of this year kind of investigating, how do mayors view growth? Now, I live in Carmel, and I know. It doesn't matter where you're from. You're like, oh, that place. The growth is nuts. What was done to this city by then Mayor Jim Brainerd, who was just replaced in this last election by Sue Finkham. Look, I could say I have questions here, I have questions there. Some places money got spent, like I would not have done that. Some places money got spent and no one seemed to care. But people love the growth of Carmel. They love what Carmel is. And then you often get into this idea that are other cities looking to be Carmel? Well, I don't think that's what Kerry Thompson's looking for in Bloomington, is it? Bloomington isn't trying to be Carmel. Bloomington has IU. Bloomington has a whole identity. I think that their viewpoint, for lack of a better word, their value system, I don't mean that in any derogatory. I'm just trying to engage a differentiation. It's different. Muncie, where we're heard on WMUN, they have had a tougher time of things. But they've got Ball State, which right now, for many people, that's the thing that's keeping Muncie in a conversation. But Muncie has been trying. Muncie looks for opportunity. And so people like Kerry Thompson of Bloomington, people like Dan Ridenour of Muncie, these are people I want to talk to. One of the people I spoke with is the mayor of Zionsville, after spending all those years at WTHR, John Stehr. John Stehr joins us right now, the newly elected mayor of Zionsville. The former mayor gave you guys a lot of publicity you may not have wanted, but there you are sitting in the chair. Before we get into the future, from broadcasting to public service, how has been the transition? Because you never know what my future holds.
Hey, so far so good. And I will say this, you talk about a transition. For me, I think broadcasting transitioned. When I first started over 40 years ago in broadcasting, I think it was a public service, and that's the way we saw it. As you know, that broadcasting has morphed over the years and changed into something quite different. So I really see this as returning to my roots, and trying to do things that are going to benefit the people around me. Back then it was a free flow of information. Now it's maybe, looking for some opportunities that we can find to make our town move forward.
Of course, John Stehr spent 23 years as a lead anchor at WTHR, now sitting in the mayor's office. Never mind the decision to run. It is a question of, when you are a mayor, when you're on a city council, about the growth. And it's a question of, do you want to grow or do you want the growth to be managed? How do you look at it?
Oh, I think we want the growth to be managed. Absolutely. I think growth is inevitable. And it's incumbent upon us to manage it as best we can to bring the most good for the most people.
So what does that entail? Is this about, hey, we need to attract more corporate entities because we want that tax base? Is this about we need to have more small businesses because that's how you better satisfy the constituency? Is it about a conversation of housing? And if it's a mix, what does that mix look like?
Well, my answer to your question is yes, yes, and yes. It's all those things. And we have to do it deliberatively. And, in Zionsville, we haven't done a new comprehensive plan here for 20 years. It's time that we do a new comprehensive plan because Zionsville's changed a lot over that time. The population has grown. The area has changed. We've expanded by annexing several different neighboring townships. So we need to take a look at what it is that people want, and it's got to be a true comprehensive plan. That word has meaning to me, and I think that if we listen to all the voices and respect all the voices, that in another year and a half, perhaps we'll have a plan that we can use as a guideline for the next 20 years.
As of now, talking to John Stehr, the mayor of Zionsville, what is that plan? When you look at it and you ran for office, how were you explaining to people, this is where I think we can go?
Well, I think that you mentioned it before in the tax base. Our tax base is heavily weighted toward property owners. And I think we need to have a better mix, and not only for our tax base, but just for the livability in our community, to have more services that are close by, to have more housing for people that can afford it. Our median home price here is very high. And, I think, hey, I like our police officers. I like our teachers. I like our firefighters. And I would like for them to have the opportunity to live in our community, too. And right now that's difficult. I don't think we have enough housing to bring in those folks. And, that's one of the things we have to look at to make a more vibrant community.
But very often that is seen as either A, bringing in very large corporations that have some undue influence or over influence, or it means changes. For Zionsville, one of the big conversations was, do you change downtown, that quaint, beautiful downtown Main Street that you have, and engage some mixed use, put in some big old buildings? The answer that was given by the previous mayor was, no, we're not going to do this. Are projects like that back on the table?
I think that our downtown is the heart and soul of Zionsville. And if you've been here, you know just how special it is. I think other municipalities around here would love to have a downtown like we do. That's the heart and soul. We need to protect that with everything we have. However, if you look south of our current downtown, there's an area that I call South Village. It's 100 acres. And I think that some master planning there can do a lot to support our downtown as it currently exists. I think the way to protect the downtown, to protect our brick street, is to put people in proximity to come and use it, to go to the restaurants, to go to the shops. And, I think that's what we need to be thinking about. So in the South Village area, we'll have an area that has its own personality, but it's also going to be supporting the personality that we already have, the most important part of Zionsville, which is our Brick Street Business District.
The idea of personality could mean, look, maybe we could grow bigger, but that's not who we are. We want to grow this much, and that's it. Is there a limit that a mayor should be applying?
Well, I think that, the marketplace is going to dictate where things go. That's why we need a comprehensive plan so we have a strong voice in how things develop. I'm not looking to, recreate the Mile Square in downtown Indianapolis. I think that's exactly what we don't need here. But I think we do need some places here and some opportunities to allow for future growth and that are more forward-thinking, and they're going to support what we already have.
Is there a business you'd like, talking to the mayor of Zionsville, John Stehr, is there an industry on the large scale or a business on the small scale that you would like Zionsville to have or have more of?
Well, I think that we're going to find our way in that. Carmel has built itself upon those corporate headquarters and the arts. Westfield is building itself upon sports. You have Fishers attracting a lot of high-tech companies. I think we'll find our niche here. Obviously we don't want to bring in heavy industrial companies. That's not really something that would be acceptable here or something that we really want to have here, something that's needed here. But I think, some more office space, some more living spaces, some more restaurants and more things that are going to attract people to come and spend time here. I think that would really be a good way forward for us.
Talk to me about your dealings with the state. You're not too far from where this LEAP district has gone in, the serious level of controversy there about whether landowners were given an opportunity to understand what was happening before land was purchased, the issue about changing water from the Wabash, from West Lafayette, and bringing things in. Is the state a worthy partner, or is the state a fight in as you think of your comprehensive plan for growth?
Well, the comprehensive plan hasn't been put together yet, so I have an open mind as to what that's going to tell us. As for being a partner of the state, we'll take that as it comes. I have not had high-level conversations with the state and its plans for the LEAP district. What I see at the LEAP district, though, is opportunity for us. As you said, it's not really in our area. It's 12 miles up the road. But I think when that begins to really develop there, whether it be 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years from now, that there's going to be support businesses that are going to be needed, accounting firms, PR firms, logistics companies, dry cleaners, dentists, all that stuff is going to come along with it. And I think there are some great opportunities for Zionsville to capture some of that growth in the area of our town that is closer to the LEAP district in proximity.
I think people forget the value of those ancillary businesses all the time. Mayor John Stehr, the mayor of Zionsville. Before I let you go, now is the moment. Now is the microphone. Yeah. What is the one business you want to steal from Carmel and have them come to Zionsville? Say it now. Put Mayor Finkham on the ropes. What is the one business you want to steal from Carmel? Go.
I don't want to work with Sue Finkham on the ropes. I want to be working cooperatively with her because I think, yes, we are competitive with one another, but I think we need to work together as well because as a group, we're competing with Nashville. We're competing with Cincinnati and Columbus and even Chicago. So we need to work together on economic development. And I think there's enough for everybody. We don't need to be stealing things from each other. I think if we work together, that's a better way forward.
If I said Scott Fadness and Fishers, would you have answered differently?
I would answer the same way. He's been very supportive. He and I have been in close contact. And, one of the things, as you know, Tony, we haven't done well here in Zionsville is build those bridges with nearby communities. I intend to work a lot harder at having those kinds of relationships with our neighbors. Without
stealing from anybody else, give me one business type you'd love to see in Zionsville.
Well, I think that, there are some high-tech opportunities that I hope would come our way. High-tech is really where it is right now, and that means flexible office space. That means, the kind of nobody needs a 15,000 square foot office anymore. They need smaller spaces, and hopefully we can provide some of that and, give people the opportunity to work in an office part-time, work from home the rest of the time, and, build a future-looking economy rather than an economy looking toward the past.
I think you should go right for Carmel's soul, personally. Just go right for it. Mayor John Stehr of Zionsville, I appreciate you. I'm going to be talking to mayors from all across the region because that's another thing. Once you get out of the donut counties of Indianapolis, man, much different value system, again, potential, but different issues. What they deal with in Muncie and how they built out Yorktown, how they deal with Fort Wayne, different than how they would deal with Columbus, Indiana, or Bloomington or Martinsville. And I want to hear. I want to understand what it is. What are the challenges that one is up against and how one goes about solving them? How do you view it? Maybe there's a way to kind of help along some of this growth. We do what we can. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today.
You got to know you're in a war to win one. You can't win one if you're asleep at the switch, have your head stuck in the sand like most Republicans. And I think that's going to require somebody who isn't bought and paid for, a businessman, not a politician. Anybody heard of that? And that's why I was in this race, but I'll tell you, the people of Iowa spoke loud and clear last night, and I'm a big believer that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That we, the people, choose who leads this country. And so we heard we, the people, last night, and that is why last evening I met my friend here. We met in person, and I told him that I would endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States and do everything in my power to lead us to victory in this war. It is a 1776 moment right now.
It was a good speech from Vivek. I don't think that's deniable. You don't forget the skill set. For sure. Tony Katz Today. And he's been picking up endorsements, congressional endorsements, Senate endorsements, gubernatorial endorsements, getting Ramaswamy, all the momentum in the world. I mean, we were discussing it. Yes, there is a way that he screws it all up, or that it all gets screwed up for him. But man, that is small percentage numbers. You gotta the amount of things that would have to go in a Nikki Haley favor or a Ron DeSantis favor. Again, I say to you, where's the money? And I'm a DeSantis guy. Like, I'll take his track record and be like, yeah, go do that. I'm fine. And less baggage, easier to get over the hump in November. I'm good to go. Trump is a heavy, heavy, heavy lift. Please, can we just agree on that? He's a heavy lift in November for the rest of the country. Heck, he's a heavy lift for a fair amount of the other 50% of Republican voters. At least based on Iowa. Let's see what New Hampshire does. But the momentum is there. Now, compare that Vivek commentary to John Kerry in Davos at the World Economic Forum. John Kerry, the climate envoy, former senator from Massachusetts, former secretary of state, former presidential candidate, and terrible at all of it, talking about why he's supporting Joe Biden.
I will campaign for President Biden. I will certainly, because the stakes could not be higher for our country, for the world. The stakes are as high as they get, and as high as I've seen in the course of my public service. So I am going to campaign very happily because I think he's done a terrific job. He's shown experience. He's kept us from, having a complete breakout of uncontrolled war in many regions. But
what? He's done what now? He's kept us? Joe Biden has kept us from war? Oh my.
Ew, David.
Seriously. There's the difference. Vivek at least is trying to inspire, and John Kerry is still lying directly to your face. That is just nutty stuff. Find everything at TonyKatz.com, TonyKatz. Become a supporter over there. Get the videos. Get all the good stuff you can't get anywhere else. TonyKatz.com. Tomorrow, everyone, take care.